Is San Francisco finally starting to realize that they haven't been running things super well? Maybe it was all the poop on the streets that they cleared out of their eyes so they could finally see the light, hopefully. Also, police officers who are assisting ICE in the Nashville area have an incredibly high rating for getting illegals during traffic stops, which is a crazy story. All that and more coming up on this episode of Turning Point tonight. My name is Jobob. Thanks so much for tuning in. Together, we are charting the course of America's cultural comeback. This is Turning Point tonight. Now, before we get to any of those stories and our fantastic panel, I got to talk about this hilarious new proposal for a proposal of a bill coming out of the libs. Congressman Jamie Raskin has said that he's going to introduce, that's not Jamie, that's Chuck Schumer, but Chuck Schumer is also on the Senate side, said that he's going to introduce what Jamie Raskin is also going to introduce, a bill called the Truth in Tariffs Act. Now, it may sound like actually a decent political idea if you're on the lib side of the aisle. What it's meant to do is force retailers, let me just read this from the Hill. It would introduce a bill requiring retailers to display any rise in cost on products caused by the Trump tariffs. Now, that may sound like a good political move, whether or not you agree with it, but let's put this in perspective a little bit. Okay, so what happens if conservatives / Republicans also introduce a bill that say, well, here's how much costs and prices went up during Bidenflation? Actually, let me do you a favor and just read a couple of that. Mind you, the Trump tariffs at this point are 10% flat tax, and let's just see if the Biden inflation costs were any more than that. Grocery prices increased approximately 20% to 21.3% in the Biden term, his entire 4 years in office. Energy prices, gasoline prices rose about 37.8% to 55.5%. Electricity costs raised about 28%. Rent and shelter went up 20%. And I can go on and on and on and on. What I'm trying to say is that this political stunt and political ploy that I'm sure you're going to be hearing a lot about throughout the news media, especially the lib media and the networks, is going to be, well, the Trump tariffs are causing prices to go up. And, maybe they might a little bit. I think it's probably for the betterment of the American people in the long term, which is how we should be thinking. But the reality is, in total, if you're going to, on the lib side, point out rising costs, maybe you should look at what the last administration did in terms of rising costs. Here to comment on that and so much more is our fantastic panel. Savannah Hernandez is a Frontlines reporter and Turning Point USA contributor, and Chris Hand is host of the Chris Hand Show in the Nashville area. Guys, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Jobob.
Chris, just start with you here. The politics behind this, everybody's trying to win political points for their side. That's exactly what this is. It doesn't actually do anything for the American people. But at some point, do you think that Republicans are going to have the wherewithal to push back and go, hold on a minute. Right now, if things go up 10%, yours went a little bit higher when you guys were in power.
Yeah, I mean, the reality of it is this will never pass and nothing will come of this. This is just for cheap political points. But the other reality is that this is what we've been yelling about for 4 years. Prices going up. Nobody seemed to care. The Democrats didn't have the same energy during the inflation crisis with Joe Biden. They actually buried their heads in the sand. And now they want to grandstand and do this kind of stuff. It miss me with the theatrics. I mean, the reality of the situation is we're going to get 2-3 months down the road, and these tariff trade deals are going to be ironed out. They're going to be smoothed over. And I think you're going to see the American economy in a much better place than you see it right now. And by all stretch of your imagination, light years ahead of where it was under the Biden administration. But they can do this for now, just like they hung on eggs and egg prices for a little while. And just like they'll hang on the Maryland man for a little while. And as soon as it becomes not as politically beneficial to them, they'll move on to the next talking point, as Democrats tend to do.
I love the Maryland man thing. I hope they hang on that for the next 8 years. Just this Maryland father who was an illegal immigrant, wife-beating, human trafficking gang member. That's great. Also, the eggs thing. I like that point about the eggs because eggs were representative of the overall cost. It wasn't like everybody cared this much specifically about eggs, but then when egg prices went up because of a random bird flu thing, they're like, oh, look at this the egg prices are up. It's like, well, that's not why we're mentioning eggs, but I don't know if they can get that through their skull. Savannah, of all the people to roll this out, this is, again, remember, a proposal for a possible bill that might be introduced. It's definitely for political points. But from a political standpoint, is Chuck Schumer going to continue to be the one who carries the mantle for the cultural side of the libs? Why don't they just pass it on to somebody else? Or maybe I'm answering my own question here. Maybe it's because somebody else is AOC and Jasmine Crockett and they look even stupider, but I'll let you either agree or disagree with that.
Yeah, Jobob. I mean, leave it up to the Democratic Party to continue pushing nonsensical bills that don't actually solve anything. It doesn't matter who pushes these bills. At the end of the day, the response is the exact same, right? This is leading to nowhere. And as you were talking about this, it's hilarious because leave it to Democrats to attack the tariffs, which are actually going to be very beneficial for Americans and bringing American jobs back home. One of the things that they're not focusing in on and they're trying to distract from is everything that Doge is uncovering. So earlier this week, Jobob, I don't know if you saw this, but the Institute of Peace was putting $55 million of unspent money that they had in an unsupervised account that everyone was just kind of pulling from. And then they were also sending millions to, contractors who were tied to the Taliban or for private jets or for renting out stadiums in Caesar's Palace. So it's like, okay, we have real substantial fraud happening in the government, but of course we have one half of the country that is more upset about the fact that Donald Trump is trying to bring American manufacturing back home. It's just ridiculous.
I do hate corruption and I hate money going out to where it's not needed. But at the same time, I'm a proponent of peace. Maybe I'm going to submit my invoice to the government and see if I can get a couple $1 million myself. I promise to split it with you guys if that actually ends up taking place. Savannah, I'm actually super curious about your comments on this. Speaking of libs doing dumb lib things, but also at some point you have to recognize reality. Reality bats last. You can't ignore it forever. San Francisco might be realizing how crazy San Francisco is. I believe it was like last week or the week before, Savannah, that we had you on to talk about the harm reduction policies in Austin across many of the blue states. I actually think you might have some weight in actually making this decision what it is. But the new mayor of San Francisco, Daniel Lurie, who calls himself a moderate Democrat, said the city is scaling back the programs that give away free foil pipes and plastic straws for fentanyl consumption. Nonprofits now will have to direct people to care first. And not only is this, I think, a good idea, but the city has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this. As the person who probably highlighted all this stuff to make it known to the libs, even in this deep blue city, what are your thoughts? Is that going to catch on?
Oh, absolutely. And again, this is happening because it's the residents of San Francisco. It is the liberal residents who initially voted this in and allowed this to happen in their city that realized how out of control things have gotten. I mean, we have all seen the videos of American children riding their scooters down very nice areas of San Francisco, surrounded by drug addicts with needles hanging out of their arms. And actually, Jobob, what's funny about this is the reason that it's happening is because the affluent neighborhoods of San Francisco, the drug addicts have now started moving into those areas because the mayor has been cleaning them out of the Tenderloin where they were previously hanging out. So because the affluent community is now getting upset, and again, keep in mind, this is San Francisco, so these homes are going for what, like $1 to $3 million, right? And this is what your child is walking around. The same voters who were okay with this happening downtown, now that they're having to deal with it in their own neighborhoods, are really upset. And now you're seeing policies like this put into action. And it's just been sad that San Francisco had to get this crazy for them to actually make a positive change.
It sounds like we should bus people to the areas where the affluent people aren't being affected, but voting the wrong way. I feel like somebody should make that suggestion to, I don't know, the governor of Florida or Texas or something like that. Chris, Gavin Newsom constantly says California leads the way, and unfortunately, it has led the way in these quote unquote harm reduction, which it actually increases harm in a lot of different ways. Do you think blue cities that are continuing to mimic California will continue to do so, or do you think that the reversal of course from San Francisco itself, the bluest of the blue, will cause some of those cities to go, maybe never mind? What do you think's going to happen?
I never put it past a Democrat to continue making bad decisions, first and foremost. But the city of San Francisco, I saw a stat the other day that in the suburbs of the Bay Area, you are now considered low income if you're making six figures. Like this city
Wow.
has so many problems. So you are now officially at the poverty line if you're making six figures in San Francisco, and you have to deal with homeless drug users pooping on your front lawn. Do they have enough problems in San Francisco? Probably, and maybe this is the leadership there going, okay, we have to do something to clean this up. Otherwise, we're going to lose all of our constituents because they're going to flee the city like everyone else has been doing. So, is this going to work? Is it going to happen? It might be too little, too late, but I think only time is going to tell.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see if this catches on other places. I hope it does. I honestly, God, hope that cities come in reverse course. Again, this new mayor, Daniel Lurie, not the party that I would have voted for, but at the same time, you know, a more reasonable Democrat, I feel like is a better option for everyone involved. Savannah and Chris will be back after the break to do a segment that there's no way that our team will allow on YouTube. So the only place you can see it is going to be here. So don't go away. We'll be right back after the break.